Father, I prayed this morning, God, for a fresh reviving. God, of those that are in this place this morning, God, as Damon brings the word today, God, I just pray that there would be arrows from the mouth of the Lord that would go into our spirit this morning, God, and bring change on the inside. Come on, how many of you are here for this morning for something so spectacular you may not even put words to it? You just know that something in your spirit, there's a yes for whatever's about to happen this morning by God. Real quick, I want to introduce someone to you. If you weren't here this weekend and you're a part of our house, you missed the whole assignment of what this ministry's for. And I'm glad you're here this morning if you didn't make it, but I want to encourage you to jump in what's happening here in the Panhandle. God has given us an assignment not just for this local house here. We're not doing the church thing here. God has given us a mandate to see this region set on fire for awakening and reformation and something that would be lasting. It's one thing to get God to come, but man, I'm believing to cultivate, to keep Him so He would stay and dwell with us. We believe God can fill us, right? You believe God can fill this right here? We have faith to even believe that God can come and fill a room. If God can fill a room, could He fill a street? If He can fill a street, can He fill a neighborhood? If He can fill a neighborhood, can He fill a city? If He can fill a city, can He fill a county? If He can fill a county, can He fill a region? I believe the days ahead, we're going to find that the glory of the Lord will cover 40, 50, 60 mile radiuses. And people that don't know God driving to the beach on vacation that have to pass through Crestview have to pull over on the side of the road because they stepped into a region that God had people that burned for Him. That's what this place is about. That's what we're continuing. We're just one piece, partnering with several other ministries that are represented even here this morning, believing God with you that something bigger is coming. And I am so happy to be running with Damon Thompson as a father in the faith, as a friend, and somebody that has spoken into my life for the last 10 years. From afar the last 10 years, this last year and a half, very close and direct. But Kevin Barbary, our associate pastor here, I'll never forget it, came in my office one day about close to 10 years ago when we were working together on another assignment together in another ministry. And he said, man, you need to listen to this. And it was a message from Damon Thompson. And I remember, I don't know, oh man, I remember it. I remember we lived in Brantley, Alabama, and Nikki and I were driving back and forth to Crestview, and there was nights that we'd lay on the floor together, weeping under the power of God for what was on the inside of Him speaking into us. Kyle Searcy introduced us back in 2008, and the years and what this moment means for me, words can't describe. Words can't describe it. I want to introduce you, Damon. I want you to have your freedom here. I want everybody just to tune in and listen to what he has to say to us this morning. Can we do that? Y'all give Damon Thompson a big hand this morning. One more quick announcement. We're going to be back here at 6 o'clock tonight for service again. So if you can make it, we'd love to see you.
Hey, just go back into the prodigal part of that chorus. I know you'll have to get your guitar back out. Or maybe you won't. Okay. It's just right where we're sitting. Let's just kind of hold our hands out in front of us like this. Let the Lord, let Him just do His thing for a little while. Prodigal lovers.
I am just a prodigal lover, and He comes running to me. A robe and a ring is what He brings. I believe that He loves me.
Come on, does that identify anybody in here? Just a prodigal lover.
I am just a prodigal lover, and He comes running to me. A robe and a ring is what He brings. I believe that He loves me. I believe
Come on, make that your prayer this morning.
Oh, come touch me. Oh, come touch me again.
Father, we thank you that there are so many occasions in our lives that we can look back and say that when we wandered off the path, when we strayed off course, that you were jealous for us and you wouldn't allow us to stay in any condition or state that was anything less than your best for us. I thank you that you have watched over every degree of my burning heart. And whenever I start to lose a degree, you come and capture me again. And I pray for the people in this room that are here this morning that obviously love you and they really want to follow you, but their heart is not quite burning today the way it once was in the past. Through disappointments, through circumstances, through just going through the motions of life, I pray that you'd come with your violent love today and you would recapture us the way that only you can recapture us. Do in us what only you can do. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, amen. Thank you, guys. You guys can, I don't know if you stay there or find a seat or what. If you'll just bump this volume right back up where it was just a minute ago, man, and that will help me tremendously since I screamed at everybody for the last 2 nights. So it's my fault completely. I went to a vocal doctor one time and told him what I did and how I did it, and he said, well, that's just stupid. I said, well, thank you. God bless you. If you didn't have 8 years of education, I'd punch you in your throat right now. You don't know me, Jack. Go with me to Mark chapter 1. I felt the Lord change my sermon for this morning whenever Nikki and the team began to sing. I want to do a couple of things here that I feel like the Lord would have me to do. One is I want to just honor where honor is due. And I want to thank Chris and Nikki and all of your leadership team for opening your hearts to our voice and for allowing us to be a part of what the Lord's doing in the Panhandle. You've really been the primary instigator to get me involved in what God's doing in this region. Thank you for seeing that and for being aggressive about wanting to see that come to pass. I want to say thank you to your whole team that parked cars, that were ushers, that were prayed for people in the altars. And, you know, I happen to think, and Ron can probably speak into this as well, I happen to think something got initiated for the Panhandle this weekend that is the next dimension of awakening for this area. Those that were in those meetings the last 2 nights will know something different happened. Something extreme happened. It felt like it was a really ascending and a launching point for us. Well, those things don't happen without a great deal of effort. I want to say thanks to all of the staff, all of the volunteers, all of the people that gave their Memorial Day weekend when they could have been doing something else with family to be in those meetings. And I want you to know that what you've sowed into the kingdom, you'll reap back into your own lives and families and ministries, and just bless you with some fresh things from the Lord. I want to say thanks to Ron and Trish for being here all weekend. And the Lord's really connecting a team, putting a team together. And I'm honored that we're getting to do this together and get to see some things come to pass that we privately have dreamed of. We're recognizing it's important for us to come together. There's not a lot of people that carry what Ron and Trish carry that'll just come sit in a meeting for a couple of days like this, except they believe in the power of team and what God's doing. I want to thank you, Pastor Alex, and your wife being here all weekend. Their crew's sitting way back up there in the balcony at the top. And bless you guys. Thank God for what God's doing through Pastor Alex and those guys in Crestview. And David and Cindy have been here to serve us all week. And many other people that are connected to our ministry have been here all weekend, staying in hotels and giving up their time. Amy, thank you guys for doing what you do. I was looking at this painting of the eagle, and I thought, if another person had 6 months, maybe they get that done. She did it during worship. She paints multiple eagles and perfect circles inside of other perfect circles during worship. I don't understand it, but God bless people who have what I don't have. I can't draw a stick man. So God bless you guys, everybody, for being here and getting on board. There's another dimension of revival. There's another dimension of awakening. There's another dimension of outpouring that's coming to this region. And God needs places that will be the fuel. God needs places where people will pray and seek God and press in. And I believe that this is intended to be one of those places. And I was going to talk to you a lot about what I thought was your specific prophetic assignment as a body, but I don't feel to do that. One of the reasons I don't feel to do that is because I would say the majority of the people that are in this room are not a part of this church. How many of you in this room, this is not the local church you attend? Raise your hand. The vast majority of people that are in this room, this is not your local church. So I'm not just going to give a specific fresh anointing type word for the house. I'm going to talk to you about where I think we are prophetically as a people in this region. And I'm going to begin by doing some things that are going to be reviewed to those of you that have been here the last 2 nights. For those of you that are podcast junkies and listen all the time, this will be even further review from you. I got to say too, Billy and Jen Osteen are here. I so love this brother. This guy is a covenant brother to me. Billy's in the military right now. He's a JAG officer, and I could go on and on about just independent prophetic words of what God is going to use Billy and Jen Osteen to do in the nation for our nation. So I love you, man. It's always good to see you. It's like one of those people, you hug him and you feel like you're back home. And so I love Billy and Jen. I'm thankful that they're here. He's stationed in this area just for a little while longer, if I understand right, and then on to the next assignment, and then on to the White House. Hallelujah, to the glory of God. And that's very, very exciting. The purpose of man, according to the catechism, or the chief end of man, according to the catechism, is to glorify God. The chief end of man is to glorify God. It's very important, if you're going to understand the structure, the inner workings of anything, that you understand its primary purpose or its chief end. Before the Wright brothers had a plan of how to put a plane in the air, first of all, they had to believe that there was a quicker way to get from point A to point B. So they studied the bird and they looked at the bird, but they believed that there was something within the man that could model what was happening within the bird. So there has to be somebody that sees beyond the realm of seeming limitations, begins to believe into the realm of the unbelievable, begins to see into the realm of the unseen, begins to dive in to the unsearchable riches of the nature of who God is, and expect that we have been given all the things that pertain unto life and godliness, that we are partakers, according to Peter, of the divine nature. And in that divine nature, there are some capacities and functions that we could be operating in if we did not accept natural or carnal limitations. The chief end of man is to glorify God. The Desert Fathers and the mystics came along and decided that that was not enough. So they added an addendum to the catechism that says not only is the chief end of man to glorify God, but the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. To glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. It was interesting that Nikki and the team, when they began to lead us in the song, I've Got the Joy, I've Got the Joy, she began to sing out of the Spirit that this is not some depressing rejection of everything enjoyable. I want to take Christianity back from the hands of secular humanistic people who have said that the true, genuine, Bible-based Christian faith is not livable. Not only is it livable, but it is the only thing in life that is truly enjoyable. Every other enjoyment fades. Every other enjoyment, you are in pain and danger of 1,000 different plagues, but only in Christianity are you safe to experience a joy and a fulfillment that you would never be able to experience outside of true Bible-based Christianity. This is fun. Church may be boring, but Christianity is unbelievably exciting. And my goal is to get the church to start modeling Christianity instead of changing Christianity into something that reflects the culture's idea of the church. And I can't go into my ecclesia spiel and get into my ecclesiastical jargon, but we've even allowed ourselves to be robbed from the idea of what God intended for us to be as a church. When you come to church and people are getting delivered, it's enjoyable. When you come to church and marriages are getting put back together, it's enjoyable. When you come to church and the chains of addiction are broken off of the lives of people and they're set free, it's enjoyable. When you come to church and you're looking at people who should have committed suicide and now they're not suicidal anymore, it's enjoyable. What's not enjoyable is babysitting a bunch of spoiled Christians who don't really want to do anything with their faith. God knows that some of us were not wired to still be talking to people in 5 years that have made absolutely no progress in the previous 5 years, although they've been being fed the very words from heaven. At some point, our faith has got to push us into a place of change. And the place of change is not going to come until somebody understands that the process, although at times laborious, is the most enjoyable part of living on this planet. The chief end of man is to glorify God. The desert fathers and the mystics came and then said the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. St. Augustine comes on the scene and says, then what does it mean to glorify God? If the chief end of man is to glorify God, and the desert fathers and the mystics agree, but add that the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, what does it mean to glorify God? It was there that Augustine, in his famous thesis, makes this powerful statement that the glory of God is man fully alive. If the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever, what does it look like for a man to be glorifying God? It looks like a man is glorifying God when that man is fully alive. And I want you to look back over your life and find the time you were the most fully alive. It was not the time you were producing the most for the kingdom. It was not the time that you were making the most money. It was not the time that you had the greatest understanding of theology and doctrine. It was not the time that you were most passionately connected to a real functioning, life-giving local church. The time in your life that you were giving God the most glory and the time that you were the most fully alive was the time that you had a private, burning, personal relationship with Jesus that made every other circumstance in your life seem like it was irrelevant. I don't need you to get into another conference, get into another service, hear another word. I need you to return back to the place where God was not what you did on Sunday morning before lunch, but God was your obsession. God would get in your vehicle with you until you'd have to pull your car over on the side of the road because you were crying too hard to drive. God would tap you on the shoulder at 3 o'clock in the morning and you would very gladly roll out of bed because you could not stand the thought of not being where He was. He was the object of your every affection. You were not doing religion. You were doing intimacy and you had a burning heart for God. And somehow we've allowed religion to come into the culture of the church and teach people that's all fine and good, but it's not realistic for you to stay that way. And I'm telling you, it's a lie. You can stay on fire. Circumstances are going to change. Situations are going to change. People are going to come and go out of your life. There are going to be things going on economically, things going on fiscally in your personal life, things going on socially, but you've got to guard the one thing in your life that separates you from people that are lost in this world. You've got to guard the personal flame of desire to have God erupt on the inside of you on a daily basis. If you've got that, you're a rich man. If you don't have that, I don't care what else you have, you're in poverty.
That's right, Damon. Come on.
Fire, man. And when Nikki began to sing that thing about first love, and I guess if I have a life message, my life message is I want to continually live in front of people and say all of the people that told me my zeal would wear off is still alive. I am flawed and I have major imperfections. But I have a flame burning on the inside of me today that's as hot as any flame I've ever had. The flame is still alive. There's stuff I want God to deal with in me. There's stuff I want God to do through my ministry. There's direction I'm seeking. But the flame of the passion to be in the presence of God is as strong and alive today as it ever has been. And that is the fight of our existence. Keep this fire. You ever see the old couple walking down the mall still holding hands? You ever see that? The old couples walking down the mall and they're still holding hands. And inevitably, whatever woman you're with will say, oh, that's so sweet that they're still holding hands. And our culture says they got lucky and found the one. No, they fought. They contended. And they made a choice that we are not going to let what we had on our honeymoon die out in our 10th year of marriage or our 20th year of marriage or our 50th year of marriage. Because listen, passion is a choice, not an emotion.
Got that right. Come on, man.
Passion is a choice. not an emotion. The kingdom of God is not about feelings, it is about choices. And if you do well, will he not receive you? Come on, Cain. If you do well, will he not receive you? If you feel like you're not close to God, guess who moved? Mark chapter 1. Here we go. I've made this commitment to God, and I'm going to follow this commitment out to the Lord at least through the 4th of July, that everywhere I speak, I'm going to share this one thought. For the last 3.5 years, 100% of the people that I know that are positioned to do something significant for God have been in their current greatest state of transition. Let me say it again. We are in a moment where we have to discern transition if we're going to receive direction. And for the last 3.5 years, moving into the 4th year now, 100% of the people that I know that are positioned to do something significant for God have been in their greatest place of transition. I can't look back on any other time in my ministry in the last 18 years and say that I could ever find a time that I would have said 50% of the people that I knew that were positioned to do something significant for God were in their greatest state of transition. But everybody that I know that is being set up for what's next are currently experiencing tremendous transition. Now, that transition may be geographical, that transition may be vocational, that transition may be in ministry, that transition may be manifesting itself in a myriad of different ways. But for everybody, the transition includes the greatest pressure they've ever felt from God to come up higher. The people that I know, 100% of them that are positioned to do something significant for God are saying right now there is more pressure on me to get into a secret place with God than there ever has been before. There's more pressure on me to quiet my mind. There's more pressure on me to eliminate other voices. And it's a godly kingdom birthed pressure because God is getting us into a place where he is showing us how jealous he is for us. Because God understands that your fulfillment can only come as a consequence of true devotion. Fulfillment experienced any other way is circumstantial and has a tendency to fade over time. But when your fulfillment is coming because your devotion to God is at its highest level, then that is something that will maintain you well beyond emotion. Sustain you well beyond emotion. Let me say this. If 100% of the people that I know that are positioned to do something significant for God are currently in their greatest state of transition, we have to look at what the Bible says about transition. And 100% of the time the Bible talks about transition, it calls transition the wilderness. Not nearly as fun a word as transition. The wilderness. But when God got ready to move Egypt from bondage to captivity, he walked them through a period called the wilderness. When Jesus was moving from being a son of Joseph and Mary, living into a carpenter's home, to manifesting his miracle ministry, he spent a 40-day period called the wilderness. When God was trying to get Israel ready for the coming of the manifestation of the Messiah, he sent a man named John the Baptist to be a voice crying in the wilderness. God uses wilderness seasons to get rid of all of the other things in our life that we have put way too much hope in. It's in the wilderness that people leave you and God gets you to himself. It's in the wilderness that a lot of the plans and ideas you had for your future crumble at the altar of God's perfect will, and you begin to believe that God has a plan for me that is far greater than anything I ever could have dreamed or imagined. How many of you can say today you're finding yourself in a place of the wilderness? What will happen to you when you get in the place of the wilderness is you will so find out things about the nature of God that you will almost, if you're not careful, become a lover of the wilderness. And then be careful, because you end up like one of us who say, I don't mind being hidden. I don't mind the ministry not going the direction other people think it should go. I just have to stay in the sweet spot. I just have to stay in the place where his voice is really, really loud. I'm willing to be, listen, I don't mean this arrogantly at all, but I preach in churches that their staff would not fit in this room, much less their church. But I come in here today with as great a measure of expectation that God has potential influencers of culture inside of this room than if I was standing in a church preaching to 20,000 people this morning. Because I believe that in the wilderness, I believe that in the hidden places, I believe that in the churches, in the warehouses, I believe that there are people in there who have said, God, whatever it takes for me to be the person that you've designed for me to be, I want to initiate an awakening. I want to be a part of history. I'm willing to go through the process that's necessary for you to make me into the man that you intended for me to be. I believe there are treasures hidden in these fields. The interesting thing about Jesus' parable of the treasure hidden in a field is he said the kingdom is like treasure hidden in a field, that when a man finds it, he buries it. He goes and sells everything that he has, and then he comes back and he does not buy the treasure, he buys the field. No, he never wanted the field, he wanted the treasure, but you had to buy the dirty part in order to get the fun part. You have to buy the part that requires toiling if you're going to get the part that is pleasurable. And in our culture, everybody wants the pleasurable part, and nobody wants to plow the field, and nobody wants to weed the field, and nobody wants to tend the field, and nobody wants to guard the field. But God is looking for people who say the treasure is valuable enough to me that I will be willing to live the life of the field. Everybody wants revival, but nobody wants prayer. Everybody wants awakening, but nobody wants to submit to spiritual authority. Everybody wants dominion without government. You cannot have dominion without government. There's never in the history of the world been appropriate dominion without intended government. It is government that God releases dominion through. I think about Billy being in the military and how he has to be willing to participate in protocol. If it's protocol he doesn't agree with, he participates in the protocol. If he's listen, this will be very relevant. If he's 10 times smarter than the person he's having to submit to, he still has to participate in the protocol. He's saluted a lot of people that are not graduates from Pepperdine, although he is, because he is participating in the protocol.
That's exactly right.
And you've got to get to the place where you're so anointed and have so much destiny and have so many prophecies concerning you that you get over yourself.
That's right. Exactly right.
If you're so anointed that you can't listen to anybody, you're just not anointed enough yet. There's another breaking, there's another crushing. The oil was a consequence of the crushing of the grape. And if you're not submitted, you just haven't been crushed enough yet. And you can either fall on the rock or the rock can fall on you, but God's going to put you in a place where you have to submit. And the person may be younger than you, and the person may not have as much experience as you, and the person may not think that you are the wisest sage that's ever lived. But at the end of the day, you've got to care enough about the kingdom to participate in the protocol, even if it gets on your nerves. I'm just rambling, but I like it. The glory of God is man fully alive. And the chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. So God is always in mine and your life trying to get us to a greater state of liveliness. He's always freshly committed to dealing with the things in our life that are keeping us from being the manifestation of His glory. Everything that He's asking you to deal with in your life, absolutely none of that is for His benefit. You can never get holy enough to help God. You can never get sanctified enough that you become a really appropriate assistant. God is trying to get us so alive, so fully alive, that we are willing to disappear into the shadow of His greatness. And I believe the only way that can happen is if the fresh flame of a love affair is kindled on the inside of me and you. I can fix everything in your life by getting you to fall in love again today. Because you don't have a money problem. You really don't have a money problem. You probably have a spending problem. America did not go through an economic downturn. America went through a revelation of the inadequacy of our God money. America got a real good, close revelation that money was not a good God, that the almighty dollar was not almighty, and the dollar began to weaken, and it revealed to us what we had put our trust in. So you can thank God for the economic downturn because it got people back to a place where they had to depend on God, not their 401k, the IRA, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, or the Dow Jones, or the real estate market here in this part of the country. And they began to realize that there were no get-rich-quick schemes, and we were going to have to trust God and believe in seed time and harvest. We're going to have to still believe in seed time and harvest. When we get done with our ideas, standing alone will be His principles. I ain't got time for that. Go with me to, I think I already told you this. Go with me to Mark chapter 1. I'm just going to read a few verses, and then I'll read a few more as a secondary text at the end. It's about 10 minutes to 12, and I should be done here in about 20 minutes. I want you to come back tonight if you possibly can. You're going to be here tonight. Ron's going to be here tonight. Chris and the team are going to be here tonight. And I think tonight God just wants to come put an exclamation point on what He's done all weekend. So make sure that you're back. Let's look at Mark chapter 1, verse 35. Now in the morning, having risen a long while before daylight. Look at this. I love this. Having risen a long while before daylight, He went out, He being Jesus, and departed into a solitary place, and there He prayed. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to eavesdrop on Jesus' prayer meeting? I mean, I've always wondered what it would have been like to hear Him preach, and He stands there on a mountain. There's 5,000 people don't have any food for their kids, and He starts talking about, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. It's just like, what did that sound like when He said that? Unless you eat of my flesh and you drink of my blood, you have no part with me. Hey, now. But to hear Him pray, what do you pray about if you're Jesus? If you don't have to say, I'm sorry I shouldn't have and I never will again, you just eliminated my prayer life. I got no prayer life at all. I just walk around speaking tongues. If you took, I'm sorry I shouldn't have, I never will again, and God, that was stupid, please cover for me. Jesus' life became the manifestation of pure communion, and because there was pure communion, there was non-negotiated obedience. Because His communion was pure, He knew that whatever He produced would be the absolute will of the Father. So when the lawyers come to Him and they want to trap Him and they say, by what authority do you do the things that you do? He comes back with a question, as any great debater would. He answers a question with a question. And he says, the baptism of John, was it of man or was it of God? And they can sort it among themselves, because this is what the religious spirits do. They always get together and talk about things. Jezebel holds a meeting and brings all of her cohorts together, and they talk about how they can get rid of the man of authority. I don't have time. That's a whole nother sermon. I got to come back on a Wednesday night for that. And so that's a Wednesday night message. Okay. So they said, if we say the baptism of John was of God, then he'll say, why didn't you receive it? If we say the baptism of John was of man, the people will stone us, for they perceive John to be a great prophet. So they come back to him and they say, whether the baptism of John was of man or of God, we do not know. He said, neither do I tell you by what authority I do the things I do, but I will tell you this, I do nothing that I haven't seen the Father do. What a statement. I do nothing that I haven't seen the Father do. So Jesus did not simply raise people from the dead because He had compassion, or He would have spent His whole life raising people from the dead. He raised people from the dead. He saw the Father raised from the dead because He was not there to do His will. He was there to emulate what He had discovered in a place of communion. Jesus went to pray so He could go and get His marching orders, so He could become the perfect manifestation of the will of Yahweh in the earth through the manifestation of the obedience of the Son. Jesus became the perfect picture of God's idea, because He was willing to die to every idea that was His, because He was willing to say no to every temptation that He had to promote His own agenda, and He had an absolute heart to say yes. So Mark chapter 1, early in the morning, Jesus gets up before daylight and He goes to pray. Verse 36, and Simon and those who were with him searched for Him. When they found Him, they said to Him, everyone is looking for you. Understatement, the great understatement of the Bible. Everyone is looking for you. Let's read verse 35 again. Now in the morning, having risen a long while before daylight, He went out and departed to a solitary place, and there He prayed. And Simon and those who were with Him searched for Him. When they found Him, they said to Him, everyone is looking for you. Here we are in the very early elementary stages of the disciples having met Jesus. Imagine You can't just read the Bible. You got to get in the book. They're cleaning their nets one day, and a man they do not know walks up to them and invites them to go on a trip. And he doesn't tell them where they're going. He doesn't tell them how long they're going to be gone. He just says, follow me. And they leave everything they've ever known because there was something magnetic enough about his presence that he was worth following, even if they didn't know where they were going. We live in such a humanistic society that everybody wants to know, where is this going? Where will it take me? What can you give me? How blessed am I going to be? What are you going to do for me if I follow you? They didn't follow Jesus because he said, follow me and I'll make you apostles. He didn't say, follow me and I'll let you write parts of the New Testament. He didn't say, follow me and I'll let you see miracles. He said, follow me because I'm me. I happen to believe the greatest evangelistic tragedy in the New Testament church is that we are trying to win people to the church because it's cheaper to have a revelation of what the church looks like than it is to introduce people to Jesus. Jesus was, is, and forever will be the most magnetic figure that has ever been experienced in the history of humanity. Jesus was so magnetic that women would take their kids and follow him into the desert and not bring them food. What kind of mother would leave, walk out into the heat of the day, into the wilderness, and not think about the fact that my children are going to need something to eat until Jesus takes 5 loaves and 2 fishes and has to feed the whole bunch? Because they were so drawn to him, they began to make decisions that didn't make sense. Women would take a year's worth of wages and break a box at the feet of a man they didn't really even know because they had to be where he was. God's going to raise up meetings that the primary purpose of the meeting is the presence of God. God's going to raise up meetings that the primary purpose is not even just the preaching of the gospel, but it will be the presence of God that preaches the gospel more powerfully than any preacher would ever be able to preach it without the presence of God. Jesus was, is, and forever will be the most magnetic figure in the history of the world. Here the disciples are. They just met him. They're just discovering him. The Bible tells us a lot of what he said in public, a little bit of what he said in private, but there's no possible way it begins to scratch the surface of all the keys of the kingdom he must have been sharing with them. Can you imagine walking down the road with him and he's describing heaven not out of the volume of his imagination, but as the architect who helped design the thing? You ever thought about that? When Jesus talks about cherubim and seraphim, he doesn't have to imagine what they look like. He was there when they were formed. Could you imagine Jesus describing creation? So we were sitting up there and the Father looked over at me and said, let's make us a man. Let's make him in our image. How you want to do it? Let's get some dirt. Then we're going to breathe, and he's going to become a living nethage. He's going to become a living soul, and we're going to give him dominion and authority. And can you imagine? How would you have slept? You just walk around saying, tell me something else. Tell me something else. When you said, let there be light. Did you feel light leave you? Because you are light. And how'd you get it to move at 186,000 miles per second? And why is it still moving? Simply because you didn't tell it to stop. You told it to be. It's round. Now tell me, it's round because we were taught it's flat. The earth is round and it spins, but none of the water spills off of it.
That's exactly right.
Selah. Can you imagine they're walking with him? Everything's new. It's amazing. They've never seen love in a pair of eyes like that. Nobody's feeling on their shoulder when they were having a bad day felt like the feeling of his fingers on their shoulder. When he hugged them in the morning, can you imagine what it felt like? The electricity of the violent love of God manifested in a man. Jesus is standing there as Yahweh with skin on, the perfect expression of the divine heart of Almighty God. In him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Jesus. Jesus. If you really understood that Jesus is in this room today, you wouldn't care how long we were here. You'd be mad when we dismissed you. You would have gotten here an hour early and asked somebody to open the door, because you would have said like David, I was glad when they said unto me, let us come into the house of the Lord. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple, because I know then shall my head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. I will say of the Lord, he is my rock, my strength, my refuge, my God, in him will I trust. When thou saidest unto me, seek ye my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Jesus. I want Jesus-centered church services. I want Jesus-centered worship songs. I want Jesus-centered revival in the Panhandle. I don't want people to say, come here Damon, and come here Chris, and come here Nikki, and come here Eddie. I want people to say, man, when you walk into that room, there's no doubt in your mind that the very Jesus that is seated at the right hand of the Father is real in that room, and you can feel him in your bones.
That's right, man.
That's what will change things. Jesus will change the Panhandle. Damon, Dutch, Rick, Eddie, we're not going to change the Panhandle. You don't need the right team. You don't need the right formula. You don't even need the right voice. You just need him. You need him to so come that when we leave, he doesn't, and they keep coming. Oh. They come for no-name preachers and no-name singers and no-name buildings, and they gather in tents and fields and under trees and in parking lots and in high school auditoriums. They come together and they'll gather wherever there's a tailgate and somebody with a radio that can put on a song about Jesus, and they get their guitars and their tents out and they gather under the oak trees of the Panhandle, and a fire begins to burn from the east to the west, and nobody can deny that Jesus is real in that area.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, man. That's what we're
Jesus gets up in the middle of the night. The Bible says a long while before daylight, and he goes to pray. Can you imagine this? He gets up and he sneaks away to pray, and he doesn't tell anybody where he's going. And Simon wakes up. He says, where is he? 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 I'm tired, but I'm not so tired that I'm going to miss him. Where is he? Where is he? Wake Andrew up. Andrew, where is he? 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 Guys, has anybody seen him? Has anybody seen him? Has anybody seen him? One of them must have had the revelation. He's done this before. Sometimes in the middle of the night, he sneaks away to pray. And Simon says, let's go find him. Well, we weren't invited. It doesn't matter. Let's just hide in the bushes and try to hear what he's saying. We're tired. We wipe the sleep out of our eyes because we can't stand the thought of being apart from him. Remember you that way? Remember you that way? I remember me that way. Do you remember when you were in the honeymoon stage? You remember Chris when he first saved you and you realized you weren't ever going to want drugs again? Do you remember when he first put his hand on you and you realized that you weren't ever going to have to live a life that is full of depression and worry and fear and doubt? Do you remember what it's like to just be saved before you were so knowledgeable and you waved a flag and prophesied to everybody and fell out in the spirit every 10 minutes? Do you remember what it was like to just be saved? Do you remember what it was like to just get in the car and turn your music on? And it wasn't any good. Come on, I would cry. We had a little church I went to had an upright piano with a microphone shoved in the top of the upright piano and a big orange fuzzy ball on top of the microphone and a kid playing a snare drum and a hi-hat and an old lady singing Amazing Grace out of tune in the wrong key. And I would cry like heaven had come down to earth because I didn't need 15 people playing horns and 300 people in the choir because I wasn't a part of the church entertainment business back then. I was in love with a man. Jesus sneaks away to pray, and the disciples in the early elementary stages of their relationship with him, they're in that honeymoon stage. I remember when I fell in love with this girl. I saw her walking by me at a baseball game eating cotton candy, and God said, how do you like your wife? I said, hold on, let me catch her on the way back, I'll tell you. God, I need to check out both sides. Hallelujah. Walking by me eating cotton candy, wearing a pair of blue jean shorts and a striped tank top. I'll never forget it. And I embarked on a journey that made me every guy I had ever made fun of. And you can't even come play ball with us anymore because you always got to be on the phone and you always got to go be having coffee. And I remember a friend couldn't even read his speedometer on his car because he had a picture of the girl up there so he could see her while he was driving. Keeping ticket stubs from movies like it's an archive, you know. I can remember dropping her off at her house after a date and calling her from the driveway and saying, what are you doing? And she said, you just dropped me off. talking on the phone until the cartilage around my inner ear was sore. Y'all don't know nothing about this, do you? From holding the telephone up to your ear. You hang up. No, you hang up. You hang up. No, you hang up. No, I love you more. I love you more. Y'all don't try to play like y'all don't know. By the grace of Almighty God and the beauty of the person that she is, we're still there. I snuck up on makeout couple right here in the Whataburger parking lot last night. Right here. Right here. Yeah. I pull up in Whataburger and here's Ron. Oh, I say, what? We're in Whataburger. Huh? Busted. We're still there. We're still there. We're still there. And the disciples were there in this story. You got to be careful that the greatest danger of your life is that you don't get used to what you used to be in love with. Never get used to what used to set your guts on fire. She would walk into a room and it would all flip inside of me, buddy. And it still does. And it always will, because a decision has to be made. Will she be valued? Will I choose my bride? Did I win her then so I can throw her away now? Or can I win her again today? There were men whose sole purpose in the temple was to make sure the fire never went out. Day and night, 24 hours a day. When the wind would try to come and extinguish it, they would guard it with their very bodies, and they would say, it is my job to make sure the fire doesn't go out. So when religion starts speaking against what God's doing, somebody's got to put their body over the flame and say, I will not let the fire go out. Come on, man. Put your hands on him right now. Put your hands on him too, David. When religion comes to try to extinguish the flame, I make declaration concerning you that you are ordained by God to make sure that the fire does not go out. It will be the joy of your life to make sure the fire does not go out. Never alone will you have to guard the flame, but God's going to put a band of radicals around you that are going to make sure that fire never goes out. If you're with this man and you agree the fire is not going to go out, stand up and lift your hands in the air. Father, I say concerning Auburndale, Florida, that the fire of God is not going to go out. I declare nobody is going to be able to stop what you have begun. And in Jesus' name, we speak increase. Come on, Tammy, come put your hands on her. We speak increase. Come on, Trish, put your hands on her. You're going to have a grace. You're going to have a grace. Their words will bounce off of you. I prophesy concerning you that no weapon formed against you will be able to prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment will be condemned. I say concerning you, if God be for you, who can be against you? The battle is not yours, but the battle belongs to the Lord. 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come nigh your dwelling. For the Lord says today, I'll make your feet like hinds' feet, and I'm able to keep you from falling. High places will be your inheritance, and the fire will not be extinguished, for it is only just begun, says the Lord. Come on, somebody agree with that. Amen. Somebody has got to say, on my watch, the fire doesn't go out. On my watch, man. Most of my friends quit on revival, and so did most of yours. I got men that we used to lay in the altar together. I hurt for them, but we used to lay in the altar together, and we used to talk about empty wheelchairs, and we used to talk about the fact that God didn't build stadiums because he liked football. God built stadiums because he needed places of gatherings of contention and fasting and prayer to bring about the contrition of nations and see miracles, signs, and wonders and mass salvations. We're enamored with entertainment, but God is going to, in his love, get us to a place where entertainment is irrelevant and his glory is the only thing that satisfies. I heard a sports commentator say yesterday that the NBA playoffs has been boring. Now, I know basketball. I run with some of you know, big-time basketball players. I know basketball, and it's been some of the best basketball that's been played in the NBA in the last 20 years. The thing is not that the playoffs are boring. It's that we're sick of it.
We're oversaturated, and it doesn't satisfy us anymore. It doesn't move us anymore. Good athletics is not going to move us anymore. Good music is not going to move us anymore. Name a movie out you'd really like to go watch right now. Flip on your local FM station and tell me if you hear anything worth listening to. We are in a drought because God is about to introduce something 10,000 times more fulfilling than anything this world of entertainment could ever offer us. Jesus sneaks away in the middle of the night to pray, and they're not invited, but they go anyway. And they go, they don't have flashlights, and they don't have headlamps, and they can't click on their iPhone. They are stumbling through the Judean wilderness, hoping they find him. How would you even find him in the middle of the night in the wilderness praying? How would you even know where to look? Except there was something about him that was so compelling that you could find him when you couldn't see him. There was a draw and there was a pull. Even if you feel like it's dark around you, even if you feel like there's traps laid out around you, you can find him if you want to, because he is always hiding himself behind the veil of his own holiness and asking somebody, how bad do you want me? Mark 1. Everything's fresh. Everything's new. Everything just happened. Chronological order is challenging in biblical scholarship, but all chronologists agree that this story happens in the very beginning of the disciples' relationship with Jesus. A prayer meeting they're not invited to. They can't stand that they don't get to be with him, and they sneak in the middle of the night and they go to where he is. And they say, everybody's looking for you. I love what he says next. He says, let us go into the next towns that I may preach there also, because for this purpose I have come forth. He was finding his purpose, and they were finding his presence, and their purpose was tied to his purpose found in his presence. And if the story ended right there, it would be awesome. But I've got to show you what happens over in Mark 14. Remember, in Mark chapter 1, they're coming to a prayer meeting they're not invited to. They're sneaking away in the middle of the night. They can't stand the thought of being away from him. Mark 14, verse 32. And they came to a place which was named Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, sit here while I pray. And he took Peter and James and John. With him, he began to be troubled and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Man, I could get on some stuff, right? This is so hard for me to pass these verses. Because Jesus is not at the cross yet. He feels like he's about to die. Because I happen to believe when Jesus was in the garden and said, let this cup pass from me, he was not asking not to go to the cross. He was praying to get there because he was about to die in the garden. Medical professionals will tell you that by the time your sweat becomes as great drops of blood, your capillaries have already begun to burst. I believe the devil was trying to kill Jesus in the garden because he knew if he ever made it to the cross. So when Jesus said, let this cup pass from me, he wasn't trying to quit on you. He was trying to make sure he finished what he came for. He knew why he was on the earth. Let this cup pass from me was not him bailing out on you. It was him saying, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to the point of death, but make sure that I make it to the whipping post. Make sure that I make it to a cat of nine tails. Make sure that I get the nail driven into the flesh of my hands and my feet. I got to let water come forth from the side. Come on, man. Think about this. Think about this. This is crazy. That's a rabbit trail, but I like it. Then he said to them, verse 34, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch. He went a little further and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. The hour, not the day. He's trying to get out of the garden to get to the cross, not avoid the cross. Verse 36, he said, Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will. Then he came and found them sleeping. What happened to the men in chapter 1 who sneak away in the middle of the night to go to a prayer meeting they're not invited to, and by chapter 14 can't stay awake for a prayer meeting he's virtually begging them to attend? What happened between chapter 1 and chapter 14? By chapter 1, he's not healed anybody. By chapter 1, he's not delivered anybody. By chapter 1, he's not turned any water into wine. By chapter 1, he's not raised anybody from the dead. By chapter 1, he's not calmed their storms and come walking to them in the fourth watch of the night. Come on. By chapter 1, he's not multiplied loaves and fish. By chapter 1, they don't have the Sermon on the Mount. Because you're not necessarily more passionate because you know more now than you did then. God's not asking for intellectual assent. He's asking for life-giving faith. Think about this. Chapter 1, they're at a prayer meeting they're not invited to in the middle of the night. Chapter 14, he's telling them that he needs them to pray because his soul is exceedingly sorrowful unto death, and he comes back and he finds them asleep. What happened between chapter 1 and chapter 14? They got used to what they used to be in love with. And they started believing that he'll just always be here. They took it for granted that they would always have this man in flesh by their side. And they did not recognize that an hour is coming that he was going to be taken away from them. And they missed the significance of the hour. And they're sleeping through history's most significant moment. I believe, listen to me, I know you're getting tired. I don't know how you're tireder than me right now, but apparently you are. They are sleeping through history's greatest moments, and I believe that it is a blaring picture of the American church at large that are living in our greatest hour, and we are sleeping through it. We're going to 45-minute church services and having 20-minute song services, and we are virtually comatose, and the world is crying out for a revolution. The world is crying out for somebody to show them the truth. All of heaven and earth are groaning for the manifestation of the sons of God, and we are sleeping through it. Let's read on. Verse 37, he came and found them sleeping and said to them, Simon, are you asleep? Why did he call him Simon? Because earlier in the text, verse 33, it says he took Peter. But in verse 37, he says, Simon, are you sleeping? Because he's reminding him to the passion he had before he got his name changed. Simon. My name's not Simon. Yeah, but go back to when you were Simon. And you snuck away in the middle of the night to prayer meetings before your name was apostle, before you were prophetess, before you knew all the things that you know, and before you'd been around everything, and you just loved him because he was him, and you weren't asking him for anything. You just wanted to be where he was. Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. Verse 39. Again, he went away and prayed and spoke the same words. When he returned, he found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. Then he came the third time and said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? It is enough. The hour has come. Behold, the Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand. What happened between chapter 1 and chapter 14? Because I thought all of the miraculous things they saw him did would make them more passionate for him. They saw a paralytic lowered through a roof and he was healed. They saw a man with a withered hand get a brand new hand. They saw a woman bowed together that in no wise lift up herself, made completely straightened out. 3 of them, Peter included, got to go upstairs into Jairus' daughter's bedroom and see him touch the hand of a 12-year-old girl and put life back into her body. They were there when he touched the coffin of the son of widow of Nain and raised a dead boy back to life again. They were there when he multiplied loaves and fish and had 12 baskets left over on one occasion and 7 baskets left over on another occasion. They were there when he calmed storms. They were standing there outside Bethany's burial tomb at the grave of Lazarus when he said, Lazarus come forth, and the 4-day body of a stinking dead man stepped out of eternity, got back into his body, came back into time. They cut the grave clothes off the dead man. They knew how powerful he was. They had seen him heal. They had seen him deliver a man in the region of the Gerasenes that was kept locked in chains up in a graveyard, and the power of God set him free. They saw him turn a whore into an evangelist with one conversation at a place called The Well. They had seen him deliver Mary Magdalene of 7 demonic spirits, and now they are asleep. After all we've seen God do in our lives, how could we possibly be sleeping through history's most significant moment? I knew when I made the announcement last night that we were having this service this morning that we were going to have an overflow of a crowd. And I'm glad, because I need to know if some of you will come even if you don't get your seat. I need to know if some of you would come if the air conditioning was broken. I need to know some of you would come if the service lasted until 4 o'clock this afternoon. Or I need to know if you're perfectly content just to remain asleep while the world goes to hell. We lock ourselves in our churches and celebrate the fact that we've got good music and good preaching. It's not enough. Somebody's going to have to birth a revolution. Somebody's going to have to pay a price to lay down their lives and say, whatever it takes for me to love Him like I used to love Him, I'm going to do it today. I'm happy right now. I'm just letting you know. I'm happy right now. I'm in love with Him. Oh, I'm in love with Him. And it's almost like if God would let me do anything, I would jump in the inside of your guts and I would jar you back to wake. I would become the paddles that clear. I'd resuscitate you, man. Because there's enough people in this room to mess this whole world up. If half of us started believing what we sing about, Jesus, there's potential. There's a ticking time bomb of authority waiting to go off. If some of us would get done with the exercise of religious activity right before we hit the buffet so we can take our nap and ease our conscience about the nature of our compromised lifestyle. There's something more in you. Or you wouldn't come to a church like this. This is not the sexy church. This is not the church you come to because of the incredible facilities and the phenomenal children's program. And you don't come here because we had 14 blow-up jumpy things in the parking lot and you got Krispy Kreme and Starbucks 30 minutes before the service and you know you should have been out of here a long time ago. After all, this is my day off. This is His day. It's His day. And God's asking you, don't you want more? God's asking you how much more time you want to spend in mind-numbing religion. How many more days do you want to spend in mind-numbing religion? Or do you want to back to life today? Back to the place where you roll out of your bed in the morning. You don't pray because you have to. You pray because you get to. You find somebody in a restaurant that you could share your faith with, and you don't do it because you'll feel bad if you don't. You do it because you understand for this grand purpose I was born and redeemed, and I want to live on fire. I don't want to tithe because I have to. I want to run off and leave the tithe and start giving so much more than a tithe because I'm going to understand God put me on the purpose to see that there's not an orphan that goes without and not a widow that goes without, and there's not a missionary in another country that doesn't have every resource he needs to do what God's called him to do. When are we going to quit living for ourselves and start understanding the chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever? Amen. Nikki, come jump up here wherever you are in the building. Thank you, Lord. Just bow your head and close your eyes before the music ever starts, if you will. There's not a whole lot you can do to turn back the clock and try to live in chapter 1 if you're in chapter 14. But there's absolutely something you can do to make sure that you have the same fire in your chapter 14 as you did in your chapter 1. Let me say that again. They haven't found anything to turn back the clock. Gray is coming in my beard, Ron. Very, very quickly. I've been prophesying very, very quickly. Gray is coming very, very quickly. There's nothing I can do to turn back the clock. Things hurt that are not supposed to hurt. Nothing I can do to turn back the clock, but there is something I can do to make sure my fire is hotter today than it was when I first began. Man, in those beginning days when I used to scour the newspaper to look for meetings where I knew somebody'd be preaching about Jesus. In those early days where I would rise up early in the morning and I would take that Bible out and I would read it until my eyes crossed. And I would lay in bed at night and I would read it again. And when I would start to try to fall asleep, I purposefully put myself in an uncomfortable situation because I didn't want to go to sleep. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. Back in those days where He wasn't a service that we went to, but He was a lover that wooed us day and night. He's calling us away again. He's calling this company of people to a higher place for a higher purpose. He's going to take the panhandle and he's going to shake the whole pan. God's going to take the panhandle and he's going to use that handle to shake the whole pan. God's going to take the panhandle, he's going to use it to shake the whole pan. The panhandle is in his hand. Let me say it again. The panhandle is in his hand. The panhandle is in his hand. The panhandle. Don't you miss it. Don't you sleep through it. Don't you be distracted. Don't you be carrying the offense of what you went through in the past. Don't you be carrying ideas and thinking and pain and betrayal. It's not worth it. They're not worth it. None of it's worth it. You have got to get in the middle of what the Lord is doing right here. You've got to surrender yourself to what God is saying concerning this moment. God's going to take the entire Gulf Coast region and he's going to bring the Gulf Stream north. And God's going to begin to put us in a stream of warm waters that supply us with more than enough resources to do what he's called us to do. Where we've strived to get from one point to another, God is going to put us in the depths of the Gulf Stream. And in that Gulf Stream, he is going to cause us to take territory that we would have never been able to take naturally. Supernatural intervention is being supplied to the Gulf Coast right now in the name of Jesus. Angelic reinforcements are already here to see the harvest of souls that God is calling the Gulf Coast to step into. I declare from Texas to Louisiana to Mississippi to Alabama all the way to Florida, we are going to see a great manifestation of the outpouring of the Spirit of God. God, let the Gulf Stream become the kingdom stream. And I pray that it begin to move. I pray that miracles begin to happen on a daily basis, not just miracles in altars at the hands of healing evangelists, but I pray for equipped people to begin to manifest miracles inside of society. And I thank you that you let us live for such a time as this. I thank you that you let us be a part of a moment like this. And I thank you that all of our mistakes, all of our failures, all of our inadequacies, all of the junk we've been through was not big enough to keep us from standing here today to say, mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Jesus is coming to the Panhandle. Jesus is coming to the Gulf Coast region. In the name of Jesus, we welcome you, Jesus, to come. We say, come. We roll out the red carpet. We roll out the red carpet and we say, come. Come to every high school. Come to every college. Come to every elementary school. God, come to Mark Rubio. God, I pray that you would come to every politician. I pray that you would come, God. And I pray that you would take over the Panhandle of Florida. And right here out of the Panhandle, you'd shake the whole pan. In Jesus' name. If you're in here tonight, this morning, I keep saying tonight, I'm used to preaching at night. If you're in here this morning and you don't have that fire you used to have, if you want your honeymoon back, if you'll be honest enough today to say, I love him, but I don't love him like I used to love him. I can hear the angel of the Church of the Lord Jesus in the 2nd chapter of Revelation saying, I know your labor and I know your patience and I know you have borne and I know how you cannot bear those who do iniquity. And I know how you have judged those that say they are apostles and you have proved them to be liars. Your patience, labor, and work has come up before me as a memorial. But I have this one thing against you. You've left your first love. You love me, but you don't love me like you loved me in the beginning. I'm a side item now. I'm still in the vision. I'm just peripheral instead of center. I hear the Lord saying there's a grace to come back today. There's a grace to come back to the place of obsession, fire, love affair. Bow your head, close your eyes all over the room. If you're in the building today and you'd say, Damon, you're talking to me. I've been hearing you today. And the love affair that I once had with God, I'm not walking in right now. And I want my first love back. I want the depth of that relationship to return. If that's you, I want you to slip up your hand all over the room so that I know, oh my God, so that I know who I'm talking to. Just slip your hand up all over the room. Slip your hand up all over the room. Now, if you're honest about that and you say, I don't love him the way I loved him at one time, but I want to come back, then from wherever you are all over this room, even up in the balcony, I want you to get out of your seat. Come stand down here with me right now. Nikki's going to begin to sing. If you will, dim the lights back down for us the way they were during worship. Oh, thank you, God. Come on, come on, come on. Fire's coming back. The love affair is being rekindled. Come on, there's room. Press all the way in. Press all the way in. Come on, come on. Come on, man. Make it as far as you can make it. And if you can't make it any further, you can kneel down right in the altar area. Make it as far in as you can make it. And if you can't make it any further, just kneel down in the altar area. God, stir our hearts this morning. God, don't let this be another Sunday morning. We ask for a grace to fall for you again. We ask for a grace to see you as you really are, God. We want to love you, Jesus. We want to love you, Jesus. Stirring today. Capture our hearts. Capture our hearts again, God. Capture our hearts again. Come on, begin to cry out. God, restore me. God, give me a burning heart today. Lord, I repent for turning away. I repent for being distracted. God, I say no to every lesser lover, and I choose you today. There's a spirit of renewal here today. God is fanning the flame. Coals are beginning to reignite again. The wind of God is coming to the embers and beginning to cause flames to burst forth. God, I speak kingdom wildfires in the panhandle. God, I speak kingdom burning wildfires in the panhandle. In Jesus' name. Come on, lift your voice to the living God.
Are you willing to be a part of the wave that comes? Are you willing to take into your bosom the fire of God and be the wave of His presence that shakes the nation? He's called us for this hour. Let's step into that place in Him.